would have done to extend his term of office?
Yeah, it would be more helpful for the people of South Africa and Africa to understand that General Museveni took power in 1986 when I was only 4 years old, and he has been in power since then. Having said, and notably so, that the problem of Africa in general and Uganda in particular are the leaders that overstand power, but he has been extending his hold on to power. Yes, we had a constitution, but it was first amended forcefully by him in 2005, removing term limits. We initially had term limits, but when he had, outlived all his terms, he changed the constitution in 2005. So when time came and he was held back by age, that was in 2018, again, he, using the military, of course, raided the parliament. You must have noticed the world saw with surprise and shock a fight that ensued in the parliament when the military raided the parliament. Ultimately, forcefully again, the constitution was changed to allow General Museveni to rule forever. That is exactly what prompted me to challenge this guy, because to challenge him now, we needed a protest vote, and that could only come from the young people. It should be noted that Uganda is the second youngest country in the world, with more than 85% under the age of 35. We have a country where more than 85% have never seen another president. Well, I was 4 years when he came in, so I can also claim I've never seen another president. That is how it has been in Uganda. So that pushed me to challenge the guy, and indeed, we challenged him, and the world knows that we defeated General Museveni, although he held on to power by force.
It's interesting because you talk about, running for that election where the president of Uganda essentially said, well, I'm going to stay in power and will reform the constitution to allow me to do so. Let's talk about free and fair elections in Uganda. Where do you rate elections in Uganda?
In Uganda, we don't have elections. We have rituals, because we cannot claim it's an election where the main opposition challenger, where the main challenger is arrested on the nomination date, where the main challenging party is not allowed to organize or to move around the country. We had what we call the election in a full blackout. The internet was switched off, or radios and TVs were switched off. International observers, notably the European Union and United States observers, were blocked from entering the country. We went into an election where all of my campaign team was rounded up on an island and detained. Many of them remained in prison on the present day. So we cannot say we had an election. We had a ritual, but whatever it is, we challenge General Museveni, and that messed up election, still, he could not win the election. They could not count the votes. They just came up with numbers wherever they got them from and announced a winner.
It's interesting. You arrive in South Africa at a time when we've just come out of an election.
Yeah.
We're busy forming the 7th administration of our country. What do you observe about South Africa's democracy?
Wow. Clearly, South Africa is not where it wants to be, but it's definitely where many of us desire to at least reach. Here, people are voting issues. Back then, we are looking for a vote. We are looking for a voice. We are struggling for our vote to matter. So there are different things. Of course, we know that many people take for granted what they have. If I was in South Africa, I would be super glad. The young people in South Africa sometimes take it for granted that they don't even go out to vote. Young people in Uganda are struggling for the opportunity to vote and to have their voice count. So South Africa, with its challenges, is definitely where many of African countries, and particularly in Uganda, desire to be.
We say a lot of the time on the continent, and you say Uganda is one of the youngest, the second youngest country in the world. We say a lot about the continent, that the continent is incredibly young, that the population of this continent is young and growing and wanting to see change. And yet there is a sense that there are bottlenecks to addressing the issues. that young Africans have, and certainly them being able to see some sort of change that they're able to affect on their own lives on the continent. Is there a sense that young people can actually have some sort of a voice, power over the political landscape on the continent? You know, tomorrow South Africa celebrates Youth Day, where in 1976 young people were able to really raise the alarm to the world about the injustice that was apartheid. And as we celebrated, we talk about, well, where is that voice today? Where do you place how powerful, if at all, young Africans are in influencing their own political landscape?
Well, it is not just a sense that young people in Africa can influence the political landscape. It is a fact that young people can and indeed should influence the political landscape. They have to, because they cannot let the elders today, whose future is already behind them, determine their future. You know, it is unfortunate to see that Africa is largely governed by elderly people making plans for young people. And I think it should be a clarion call all over Africa for young people to get actively involved in the politics of their country, their countries, because they indeed can. Historically in Africa, all the change that has been inspired and achieved has been done in youthful times. Look at the days of Mandela. These were young people, and it's in their youthful times that they made the biggest contribution to Africa. So we must